Welcome to the Bladtcast. Very excited to be doing a show live with some friends in the chat already. Matt and KC, Bladtcast Surprise, boom. Dominicus Saxon, let's burn this mother down. Not literally, please, no fires. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the Bladtcast. Bladtcast 424. That is too many.
That's crazy.
And it has also been far too many since we've been visited by our friend, the one, the only, Happy Cappy herself, Alexa Cappiello.
Sorry, I didn't know you were starting, so I had put granola in my mouth. I was eating, so true to form. That's
I wasn't.
How I start your show. I was like, Mom.
I actually wasn't going to start, and then I'm like, oh, she's eating something. So
yes, I'm going to start right now.
This is really the point.
Thanks.
And our dear friend Lynn B points out, don't burn mothers. Absolutely. I agree. I think that we should really discourage that at all times. And Matt follows up, glad to be here. Always try to keep up on the Bladtcast. Sure, Rogan is only on Spotify, but Bladtcast is here. Yes, that's the thing that I will tell you about the Bladtcast. It is more available than the Joe Rogan experience. And also, as I have pointed out in the past, we may have more episode numbers than listeners, but I don't know if that's true or not. I just think it's a nice little tag. So Alexa, you and I have known each other for a few years now, and we have done.
Hasn't it only been a year? I mean, it feels like a few, but
it's a few years. Well, we actually. Oh, you know what's talking right now?
I absolutely know what's talking. You should tell her to shut up. The real Alexa.
Yeah. Here. That's funny. So I'm going to have to go. Alexa, stop.
Alexa, stop listening.
Because I have never talked to you while recording in this room where that might happen again.
Thanks, Amazon. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And, mostly that thing gets used because, my son will say things like, Alexa, what sound does a whale make? Oh, that was a really weird thing. Yeah. So you see, even when I want her to perform, she doesn't. Yeah, that's what she used to do. She would make that noise. But see, that I got an Alexa to do it, so it worked out. Absolutely,
worked out.
Anyway, we met a couple of years ago at AfterBuzz TV doing the Legion After Show. That was how we first got to know each other. And
has it really been a couple of years? I swear, it's only been 1 year.
Well, it's been about a year since the last time I talked to you. Actually talked. We've traded texts and emails and stuff.
Time is just a concept, okay? Especially
that's true. Exactly. But you and I were talking before we got started. We remembered the last show we did was it was a fun show we were doing called Retro Anatomy of a Movie.
Yep.
And we, you, myself, and Rachel Goodman, we talked about Dr. No, which neither of us had seen. Actually, none of the three of us had seen. And then Rachel went so far as to read the book. And I'm like, all right, show off. But it's like, we get it. You know how to read. Don't try and make me feel bad.
Yep.
Which she did. Mm-hmm. But so, and then, we were planning the next show we were going to do. We were going to watch some Akira Kurosawa movie, which I have still not watched. And it was a fun show that we were doing, though. The idea was we would sit down and watch movies that we hadn't seen before, but we knew we should have. So we did Taxi Driver, your absolute favorite film of all time, White Christmas.
Oh, I loved it.
I know. It's I think the problem with you and White Christmas is you don't know which role you would most like to have played in that film because there's so many strong roles,
women,
so many strong roles for women in that. And it was we were moving along on that show, and we had
that was a lot of fun. That show. I mean, we're gonna bring it back when things are safe again. But it was I call myself a cinephile, and I'm sure you call yourself the same. And you can't really truly call yourself a cinephile unless you've seen all of the movies ever, right? That's. Yeah.
Well, there's always a list of 100 that they say you should watch, and then you're like, oh yeah, I have not seen most of those. But we would watch fun movies like The Apartment as well.
Exactly. So I think we started off with the 100 best movies list from AFI, and then we were just making our way down that list. We were specifically going after movies that we were like, oh wait, I'm so interested in that movie. I want to watch that one. And I mean, everybody else had seen Goodfellas, so I was kind of left in the dust on that one. We were trying to do one where all of us had not seen, and
you've had a year where a lot of time still haven't seen it. I kind of like that. And Corby from Houston checks in. Well, he's in Houston.
No,
I actually do love White Christmas.
It doesn't offend me. It's just not my favorite Christmas movie. My favorite Christmas movie is Home Alone. So it gives you an insight into my personality.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. White Christmas is fun. It's just the story just didn't grab me. That's all.
I don't know what you would have found difficult to relate to in White Christmas. It's so easily accessible in the 21st century, especially those of us who didn't serve in World War II. But we got to do fun shows like that. But just meeting on that Legion panel, which was fun. Our pal Jeff does Marvel movie talk with me right here on my YouTube channel on Fridays. Nice. And we're gonna have Elena pop in on actually tomorrow, next Friday.
Great.
And we have been talking a lot about WandaVision on that show.
WandaVision is dope.
Yeah, I wanted to know what you think of that show and how much you can talk about. We've had 7 of the episodes now, so I feel like you can say something about how you were an extra on that show.
Oh, I wasn't an extra. I was COVID compliance, but close. So on the big sets, because there was some filming happening during the pandemic, they basically made roles. A role called COVID compliance, which basically we walked around with PPE and made sure everybody was staying 6 feet apart, and just was making sure everybody was being safe on set, because the last thing they needed was for somebody to catch COVID and then they'd have to shut the whole production down. So they were on a tight budget, tight schedule, and so they hired a bunch of people to do that, and I jumped in. I was there kind of like the last week or two, and it was epic. I mean, I'm not going to give you guys any spoilers or anything because I'm not that kind of person, but it was really cool. It was really cool to see, because I'm an actor and a writer. I really loved watching the director. I think his name is Matt Sherman.
Matt Shackman.
Shackman, there we go.
Yes.
He directed, I think, a few episodes of Game of Thrones as well, and I was just really enthralled with watching him dealing with the actors, and I tried to get as close as possible so I could hear what was going on, and it was really cool. A lot of it, like last episode, I was there for a lot of what they filmed, so it was like cool to see it all. I was like, what's going on? Like I was trying to piece, because they don't give us a script.
Right, no, of course.
So I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. I watched Vision, Paul Bettany walking through the thing that she created,
the hex,
yes. And so I was watching him like walking slow motion on this field,
and it was like literally what you're doing right now for those watching on YouTube.
What else? I saw a lot. It's about to get weird. Not that it isn't already weird, but it's about to get very, very weird. Excellent. And they filmed a lot of it on Disney. Not the lot, but their not plantation, that's the wrong word for it, but they have this massive area that they film over.
Yeah, I mean, Warner Brothers have what they call the ranch.
The ranch, that's what I was saying. The ranch. They filmed most of it there, and boy, it was cold. We filmed a lot of night stuff, and I was freezing. So it went from being, I don't know, like 70, 80 degrees during the day. And then at night, I learned very quickly to bundle up. I was literally in like a beanie and my North Face jacket, just freezing while they were doing some of those shots at night. So it was really cool.
Corby chimes in. You got as close as possible while monitoring social distancing. So
Correct.
It's like how much can I snoop from 6 feet away?
Absolutely. It's
and
possible.
And obviously if you're going to be doing COVID compliance, you have to do a good job. Otherwise, Tom Cruise goes to every set and he yells at everyone for
Yep.
not being COVID compliant.
Yep.
And that would start with you.
A lot of the crew at the point of the end of the show, they were all pretty like, okay, we're going to be compliant. But, I had a couple of friends that worked on the project and they did not have it as easy. Crew kind of, there was some backlash. And I definitely got some backlash as well. I think I asked some guy that was operating a forklift to put his mask on normally, and he had it like half off. And because he's like, I'm trying to communicate. I'm like, you can communicate with your mask.
Yeah. Look, you can yell at me, sir. Just put your mask on.
Exactly.
And by the way, that's definitely an older story now, but that leaked audio of Tom Cruise yelling at the set of Mission Impossible. I hear it, and I'm like, okay, he didn't express himself correctly, but it's not that the point of what he's making is not wrong.
Right, no, it wasn't wrong.
Yeah. So, it's like, oh, I think we're probably supposed to think he's a jerk for that. And I'm like, sure, you can calm down, you can take it down a notch, but at the same time, and it's like, look, you have plenty of people that I have, friends on social media who comment that they don't know that there should be production of movies and TV shows right now. And I think that I understand that argument, but it's also, especially for honestly network TV that sells advertising, which WandaVision is not. It's such an important part of the economy. If you take it away, it's like, well, now those companies are not buying that time on new content to advertise, and then people aren't seeing those products. So it really is a domino effect. And what they've found is that they're able to do it, largely. I mean, I have a friend who works on a network sitcom that doesn't have a studio audience this year, but they figure out how to do the rest of it, Mm-hmm. So I think that, look, they're, and you don't hear about a lot of, you hear about problems, I guess, on like film sets and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, they had to shut down the Batman movie because Robert Pattinson tested positive, things like that. But it's just like, okay, well, I think that's the right thing to do is, and I think it's, I don't know, to me, when I hear about some of these protocols, and look, they've been filming in the neighborhood that I live in. And so you actually see sort of the way that craft services are set up. And it's like, everybody's got their own table. There's no hanging out with friends, it's, so it's interesting, just the adjustments they've made. And it's like, yeah, look, it's great. We maybe don't need to have people filming right now in one level, but I think it is it is important for some of these projects that are in the works, and I think mostly for television. Movies, it's another issue we can talk about. So Sam Whitfield wants to know, Alexa, I should not say your name. I should start calling you Cappy. Did you get to meet anyone from the show, production or cast wise?
I mean, I met everyone. I just, there wasn't a lot of like greetings up close and personal.
Right.
But I definitely got to watch Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, and Catherine Hahn. And I forget the age. I basically saw the main cast.
Randall Park is who you were thinking of.
I saw Randall Park. He was, I didn't think he had as big of a role on it based on like how he was acting and off camera and everything. Like he was like sitting with people. I mean, socially distanced, but was really just like cool and calm. And I thought he was like a day player, but then I realized, holy crap, he's like a massive part of this.
No, he's a big part of the show. Yeah.
And that's like a testament to I don't know how cool and down to earth he is, I think. But yeah, I basically saw that all the main cast do their thing, and it was really awesome. Catherine Hahn does not like when you watch her act. That's very strange, I guess. But a few actors don't. But so like if she's doing something and you're in her line of view, she will tell production to ask you to stand out of her line of view so that you're not distracting her from doing her work. And that's fine.
A story that I heard from a set decades ago at this point now, that the actress Bebe Neuwirth cannot handle when people call her Lilith, because that was her character on Cheers and reprised a couple times on Frasier. So she was doing the show that was filming on location in New York. So when people see her, they don't know her name. They're going to yell Lilith. And so it was a problem because emotionally it was very upsetting to her that, hey, Lilith, you know, and it's like, they're just saying hi, you know, but,
Right.
you know, and I get it because I've done very little acting, at least in the 21st century. You know, I was in some high school plays and did some probably bad improv comedy in college, but I can see how I know enough that it can be very distracting, you know, but that must have been great for you to just be able to be around, you know, something on that level. You know, I mean, the first time I was ever in a TV studio and around a TV show, I was just like, this is amazing, you know, and that was just like a talk show, you know, and just seeing anything is pretty great. You know, Dominica Saxon brings up a great point. Nope. Do Blatt masks exist? Bladtcast masks, Blatt masks. And then if not, they should. Anytime anybody wants to create merch for this show, they're always welcome to. Unfortunately, that's usually you, Matt. You're the one who has created the mugs and shirts, and I think that's all we have, but it's really because of you. Yeah. And Corby makes a great point. I can understand that. I can't take it when people call me Batman. So he can relate. He can relate to the simple problem of being distracted. So, Alexa, you talked about how you're an actor. I know that having done karaoke with you, I know you're also a singer, and you've posted some of that online very recently.
Yeah, so, I'm going to do some more of that. I miss singing a lot. So.
Well, let's talk about that first. Let's talk about the singing. So it was you singing. It was a Disney song, and I'm sorry, I forget which one it was now.
It was "I Won't Say I'm in Love" from Hercules.
Oh, from Hercules. Okay.
Because Meg is dope. She's like that. She's awesome.
Hercules is sort of that era that they kind of brush over the movies a little bit. You know, it's like,
no way, that was 90s pinnacle.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're not as focused on late 90s. It's all like, hey, remember Lion King? Remember Aladdin? Pocahontas? I don't know. Emperor's New Groove, Hunchback.
Oh,
you know,
those are the best ones.
I'm just saying, like, where's the merch for those movies? You know, and you know, I mean, it's all on Disney Plus, so I guess it could all come around. So. What made you think
Hunchback of Notre Dame? Also one of the best movies with the best score, right? I'm not wrong here.
No, I'm just trying to think about it, and then all I could think about was how Tarzan had that Phil Collins song, and then I was just, you know, it just derailed my whole thought process. But so you posting some singing, that must feel good to like get it out there, and so you have more of that planned. But how difficult is it? I mean, it's like if you want to be an actor, there's not a lot of opportunities for somebody to get new roles at this moment. I mean, I've you know, long before TV shows were back in production, I would hear about commercials filming where you'd be hired for like 4 days. They'd put you up in a hotel room and test you, and then you wouldn't be allowed to leave your hotel room, and then everybody, you know, just sort of all these protocols in place. So there's a lot of ways in which this past year can be challenging, but talk a little bit about just dealing with that, you know, just wanting to get out there and act and sing and really just kind of largely being in the room I see you in right now.
Luckily through this pandemic, we have the gift ? Of social media. The social media is this double-edged sword that I wrestle with every day, but you know, it still has kind of allowed people their sort of platforms to create, and so I'm just sort of doing what I can right now to get those creative juices flowing and not let my brain demons take over, because I mean, this is a hard time, not just for me, but for everyone, and creative juices just help me center myself and get back to, you know, what I love and makes me feel good. So I've been utilizing that. Luckily, I also have this great little pod of creative friends that I've been quarantining with throughout the pandemic, and all of them are creative in their own right. They're all talented, and so I did a short film with them. There's a few other ones on the docket. I wrote one, and we're gonna hopefully film that one very, very soon. I just gotta writing is so difficult.
It's true.
Like I could sit here and critique movies all day, but I sit down and I write my own, and I'm like, oh, I hate this, I hate that. So I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but eventually I'll get to the point where I'm like, okay, I've enough of staring at this screen. I'm gonna just up and do it. So getting close to doing that. A few others are on the way. In terms of projects, and I've also been booking. I've been very, very fortunate, very lucky. I've been booking things here and there, like commercials. I did one for Nissan. It was like an instructional video for online sales for Nissan, and they wanted a host, and I was like, well, I can do that. Here's my hosting reel. And so I got booked for that, and a few like fitness commercial stuff, and yeah, so I'm just looking forward to getting into the artistry part of it, the acting and the singing and the writing soon, and things are opening up slowly but surely, and so I'm just hanging on until then.
Yeah, I mean it's a different sort of creative muscle, but when we started really just staying home so much, I was like, well, the last few months that AfterBuzz was going, we were doing shows on Zoom anyway, so I had already gotten it into my head that it's like, oh, it's actually not that different. So I never stopped doing my main podcast, and I started getting a lot more opportunities for interviews, like musicians and things that I was just like, I'm like, they probably have better people to talk to. But now everybody was home, and they're like, yeah, just and look, I think some publicists were just like, however many people we can put on their schedule, it shows that we're doing our job. So, getting that opportunity to do a lot more shows, it was good. It was like nice to have something to focus on, putting stuff out there. And that really sort of propped up the YouTube channel. And that's why I started doing some of the shows that I had been doing for AfterBuzz, getting them over here, doing a political show, doing the Marvel show. And I think it's important to have things to focus on. And you touched on something that's very important, was you saying that you were doing sort of like a creative pod with other people. And I think that, as most people know, I have two small kids, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And that was, in a lot of ways, the most terrifying part about being told that there's a global pandemic coming around us. There's, terrible germs out there. But it's also, so there's the physical concerns, but also there's sort of mental health. And before anybody had even started calling it potting, and I've talked about this, we, like that Friday, we go to pick the kids up at their school, and they're like, yeah, we're going to be closed for a few weeks because of this. I'm like, wait, what? What happened?
Yeah.
What do you mean? But then that Monday we started like spending time with this other family that they had gone to school with. And we're like, all right, well, we're not going to see other people basically. And, just these two families. And we ended up spending a couple months with them before we went down to my wife's parents. And just the fact that, and look, they had a much bigger yard than we did. Well, they had a yard. We just have a patio. So it was like great for them. They got outside, they ran around, they got to see like their best friends, and it was like, I think it made it a lot easier for them to adjust. And it was also better for us. We actually had something to do. And I still had shows to do. I still had my job. And it's like, so you have this structure to it. I think when you don't have the structure, I think that's the problem. And having projects to work on, whatever they might be, is good. And look, I think even for people that, maybe they never scratched that creative bug, I think it's helpful to like, you can have like, home improvement sort of projects too. It's like, well, now this is the year that if in the last year somebody had always wanted to start a flower garden and they didn't, that's on you. You had plenty of time, that was the time to do the flower garden.
Absolutely. I've done some home improvement stuff too. Like it hasn't all been just like, acting oriented or whatever. Like I've done some room rearrangements, and I've just, you do whatever you need to keep your mind off of crazy things happening in the world.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's, the pandemic, oh God, it's been awful, but also on the flip side, it's kind of forced people to think outside of the box, and be creative in other ways and come up with their own content, because of course, there hasn't been a lot of filming. So I'm seeing a lot of independent stuff coming out of this. And I think that's going to be great. I think a lot of people are, just jonesing to do their own stuff now, and they've had a lot of time to think on it. So I think it's gonna be good. I think we're gonna see a lot of really cool independent types of projects coming out of this. So
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and I think you're going to get a lot of, and look, there's a lot of like self-created content out there. I mean, and people figured out ways to kind of take advantage of the situation. I mean, my wife worked on a show that went on Netflix in October called Social Distance, and they would send equipment and actors would film themselves in their house, and some of it would take place on Zoom and, other online sort of platforms. And it was kind of it was the first, like other shows that have done like episodes like that. But it seemed like a creative way to figure it out. And then the months after that, the timing for it, I think, was good because it came out in October. And then by the end of the year, they'd figured out how to start doing some semblance of shows. And it's just like, nobody's close together anymore when they're talking. And I don't know how you choreograph a fight scene in 2021, but I guess it's maybe testing. And well, now I mean, you can get a vaccine.
Well, everybody, yeah. Before the vaccines, they were testing us on WandaVision basically every other day. And that's just crew. I'm not even sure. The cast maybe was tested every day, but they were vigilant about it. So
yeah, I know. A friend of mine works for the Tonight Show in New York, and she went back in September, and she was the first one that I knew who went back into a work setting on a regular basis, and she still gets tested, I think, 3 times a week. And it's just, and everything is sort of at like reduced capacity, but it's like we're getting stuff to watch, and it helps that you have plenty of stuff sitting around that was filmed beforehand. You have a show like The Mandalorian, and of course WandaVision, which I guess wasn't quite finished. Because when you were going on set doing COVID compliance, when was that they were finishing it up? Was that like December?
That was October.
October. Okay. Yeah.
October. Last week of October was their last week of shooting.
Right. Yeah, and that was actually going to be the second of their Marvel shows. They were going to have Falcon and Winter Soldier first, but then they had to go to Prague to finish that. So that was a little bit more complicated. So that's why that's premiering in a few weeks. So, I think, I don't know. I mean, it's impressive to kind of see, and just people I've talked to who have been working, that they figured out the way to do it. And, it's, I don't know. I think we're very capable in 2021 with coming up with creative solutions, and I've done whatever the little part is that I feel like I can do, and like putting out the content. Like, it's really nice to see Corby say, "I would not have made it through 2020 without the Bladtcast." That's very nice of you. I even if you are being disingenuous about it, I'm going to take it. But I tell you, the creating the content was just as much for me, if not more so, than for the people watching it. Just to it's like, if I looked at the page views and it said 0, I would certainly be disappointed, but I'm like, yeah, but I saw it. And look, when I'm going to get compliments that the musician interviews are great, then I'm going to stick with it. Lynn was talking about homeschooling. I made a chapbooks of all of our homeschooling, March to May. Photos are deceiving. It looks like it was so fun, but stressful. Yeah. When we look back we have pictures with the other family that we spent some time with in the spring. It definitely looks like it was fun. But that is not always the case. And Corby points out that they were already doing homeschooling, so it was not a big change, but you understand how it was a change for most people. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I think the one consistent thing that I've learned from parent friends is just how appreciative they are of teachers. Not that they weren't already, but then you're like, oh wait, they have to do this for like 19 kids, and my son does, Zoom kindergarten, and it's, I don't know how she does it with 18 kindergartners to like hold their attention. And, some days there's just somebody's not there because as we were told, they were spending that day, the parent came on and said, yeah, he's going to be under the table for the whole day. So sorry. It's just where he's at, and it's so look, I think that it's, if anything, it's shown how resilient we are just as a society and able to figure it out. And I hope that good times are ahead, because there are so many there's so many movies I want to see. Now, I've gone out to the drive-in a few times. So I think when it's been good. There's actually, living in Southern California, we're lucky in that, one, you can go to the drive-in year round. because it's the weather's always at least nice enough. And, there have been a handful of new movies that have opened. So I've seen those. And actually we're going to take the kids to see Tom and Jerry this weekend. There's like a new Tom and Jerry that is opening. Yeah. And so it's fun. I mean, I grew up with a drive-in, like, that was actually the closest movie theater to me was a drive-in. So it was always fun to me. And I like that. And I think when movie theaters start opening, young and healthier people like you might want to be able to go, but I'll be like, I'll just go to the drive-in for a little while. But I love the idea when I hear things are open. Like I heard that next week movie theaters in New York City are going to open at like 25%. And I'm like, see, to me, I think stuff like this is good news. When you hear that there's production happening, I'm like, this is good.
Right.
When you hear that some schools in the country are able to open and, even LA County is starting to meet, requirements. But, as we inch towards stuff. And then I think a lot of people, they hear that like this is going to happen. They're like, well, no, this is terrible. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Isn't it good that at least people are starting to feel like we can do stuff again? And one of the things you and I were talking about very briefly before we started is how important it is to like obviously be smart and be safe, but you can't, you're not going to do yourself any favors by just like being like the kid in my son's class, like hiding under the table all day because the virus might come in through the door.
Right.
So it's important, I think, to go out. And I've noticed, because I follow you on social media, which I think everybody should.
Yeah. I didn't get the memo that I should have put my social media handle on my name. That would have, I'm just not with the program today.
That's all right. But this is the first time that you've done one of these.
It's true. The fact that you got me on Zoom, in any capacity is a testament to how much I adore you as a person, Christian, because
tell me more.
I have refused to do any Zooming with anybody, really. I mean, I've done it maybe once or twice, but I hate Zoom. Like, I hate it.
I remember you did something on Instagram Live and I popped in for a minute. You were with somebody else. I don't remember. Like it was
somebody else was interviewing me. So.
Yeah, I know. And so that's when I was like, excuse me. I have a show too.
Oh man.
But anyway, so it's just sort of the idea of getting out. And at Alexa Cappiello, if people want to follow you on Instagram, right?
Oh yeah, at Alexa Cappiello on Instagram.
Yeah,
if you'd like.
And yeah, that's where they can find you. Stay out of Twitter. It's
I deleted my Twitter, and he's very upset with me for it because somebody took my name. There's apparently another Alexa Cappiello out in the world. Like who? What? Who else has that name?
Well, I've talked about this before, but did you know that there's another Christian Blatt in the world, spelled exactly like mine?
Definitely not as cool as you, right?
No, although he was a boxer in Denmark, and he was undefeated. Yeah, Blatt. Yeah, he was undefeated for his first 19 fights, and he hasn't fought in a while. But
okay,
so
right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where people can keep in touch with you. But I've noticed that you haven't stopped doing anything. I think it's just you've found a way to look. My wife and I broke down and we bought like an exercise bike that we have in the garage because it was like very clear because we're not. I don't know. I'm not like, I'm going to meet up in the park and exercise mostly because of time, but also I just don't want people to see me. It was bad enough to go to the gym.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
But I care. So talk about the importance though. You said you had your pod of creative people and going out there and doing stuff like having, I don't know, do you have like a regular, because you were doing a lot of boxing. Before the pandemic. Yeah. So just talk about some of the things you get out of the house to do.
I have an awesome trainer, but things are slowing down a little bit with him. And they did slow down a bit during pandemic because obviously there's a pandemic and I couldn't really see anybody outside of your pod for a while. So I've been keeping up with that as much as I can with him. But also I've just been going out on lots of hikes. I've been going to parks and doing a lot of HIIT training. Do you know what HIIT training is? High intensity interval training? No?
I would be more inclined for lit training, the lowest possible intensity training.
Right.
Does it involve me putting my couch outside and then I sit on the couch?
It's essentially circuit training, and it's just like,
Yeah.
you know, it's there's like intervals that you have to. It's whatever. I just let some girl on the internet yell at me, and I do whatever she tells me.
You usually need to pay a lot of money for that, or maybe only I need to pay a lot of money for that. Maybe you get to So,
but I don't. I mean, of course, I want to stay fit and everything like that. For jobs and work or whatever, but I mostly do it just to keep my brain okay, you know, because otherwise, like I said, my brain could go all sorts of different places, and getting those endorphins going, it helps a lot. So and walks they never said walks were a bad thing. They just said make sure you stay away from people, you know, keep your mask on. So I think honestly walks are really what saved me too. So I take my dog out for a walk and stay away from people, put my mask on, but just the act of walking somewhere that was outside of my apartment was extremely helpful. So
yeah, and I think that was good for us and for the kids, was to just get out and take a walk, especially on the days where we weren't going to that other family's house. And look, I consider myself very lucky that my kids are both in preschools that have, you know, really strong protocols in place, you know, COVID protocols and safety. And it's a lot of like, you know, we don't actually get to go inside their schools anymore. You know, you just kind of drop them off and, you know, all this sort of stuff. And my daughter's classroom is like the entire size of my elementary school, just because the room is like, I've only ever seen pictures. It's enormous. And we're like, all right, we feel pretty good that there's 12 kids, you know, spread out on a, you know, an acre and a half of school. But, you know, and I think that them going back like that first day, it was nice for my wife and I, but for them, it was like, oh my God, thank God, you know, because they got to be around other people and other kids, and they were like doing normal stuff. And it was like, sure, they were wearing masks and having to wash their hands all the time and sit really far apart. But it's like, I don't know, they're little enough where it's just like, oh, this is great, you know, and they're so excited when you pick them up after school. And it's like, if they were, you know, in this house with us all day, you know, I'm lucky enough to have a house with some space to it, but not enough for them, you know? So, and I think that Corby makes a great point. It's obvious Christian knows what hit is. Look at him. Yeah. Although at the same time, he was shocked that I'm not the boxer from Denmark. You feel like you're living a lie. You feel like you're living a lie. I think I am. Uvula Scrimshaw. If that Danish boxer fought Adam West Batman, he'd hit him and we'd see a big comic book Blatt, B-L-A-D-T, and the old sound effects. You know, they did once have the sound effect B-L-A-T-T, and I took that as close enough. I was very excited. Yeah. And then this is my mom, who says, glad I found you. So I didn't know you were looking for me, Mom. I'm sorry.
Oh, hi,
but
Mom.
Here I am. Yeah. But always good to hear from you know, some of our regulars, which includes my mom. Yeah,
I'm excited to start our movie show back up. Christian, we need to do that, and I will get on Zoom for you if you want to continue doing that.
I would like to continue to do that.
We have to contact Rachel again and ask her if she's down.
Yeah, Rachel, I was doing the Marvel show with Rachel. Rachel has like 2 jobs now. She's like killing it. You know, she has like a morning job and then like an afternoon job that I don't know if she's saying what it is, but it's good. It's like she's affiliated with a very well-known brand. Let's say that. And but I would love to make time for that. You know, there has been a lot of time for people without kids. There's been a lot of time to catch up on content over the last year. For my wife and I, we have to be very selective. And, you know, when everybody was going on about Tiger King, which was a year ago, by the way, we watched one and we're like, okay, I mean, I can see how this is interesting, but I'm like, I don't want to devote 7 hours to like living in this world, you know? So I'm a little bit more selective about it. But what are some of the things that you've been watching or listening to, reading? You know, I mean, what have been some of your favorite things that you're like, oh, I found this because I had maybe a little bit more time to try a series or find a movie or something?
Mando. I hadn't watched Mando yet.
I remember that you hadn't watched it, but you've seen both seasons of Mandalorian now?
I'm almost done with the second season. Almost. But it's so good.
Yeah.
I've been very burned by Star Wars, as many of you I'm sure can relate to. Like the new stuff, I just think is awful. Like just bad, and of course the prequels were also bad.
I always say, like, anything that you've gotten after 1983, after Return of the Jedi, it's like, yeah, it's gravy, it's okay. You can pick and choose things, but it's like there's nothing on that level. And I do it largely to be annoying because there's this contingent of people that like the middle film in the sequel trilogy, The Last Jedi, which I rewatched before the final film came out, and I was just like, oh no, I didn't hate it as much as I thought. I hated it so much more than I ever thought I did.
Right.
And it's like to me it's fun, and I'm like, if you rank that movie amongst any of the original ones, I just know I can't have a serious conversation about something as important as Star Wars. But Mandalorian is the thing that it's not divisive.
Right.
Everybody's like, oh, it's so good, and it's not nobody's like, if only they put some Jar Jar Binks in it, that's what really would have saved it.
It's what these new movies should have been, but they weren't, obviously.
Just have that series. Yeah, exactly.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I liked. God, what's her? I forget her name now, but the main chick in it.
Daisy Ridley.
No, of Mando.
Oh,
the one who just got in trouble. Yeah, she got in trouble. Got kicked off the show. I wasn't a huge fan of her acting, but I definitely appreciated the fact that they had straight up a fighter chick on the show.
Yeah.
Like, she has a fighter body, and like, that's really cool. I want to see more of that. Like, yeah. So hopefully they'll find a better actress.
Well, that was really the thing. I think they wrote
that kind of role.
Yeah, I think they wrote a good part, and I think casting, the physicality was perfect. But it was so awesome. Long before people were complaining about what she was tweeting, I was just like, yeah, but she's a terrible actress, like terrible. And and Sam in the chat knows who I'm talking about. There was somebody who posted that she was the best thing about the show, and I'm like, okay, no, that's not even like the 10th best thing on the show. Like, Carl Weathers is better than her.
Is the best thing on that show. Let's
exactly. Yeah, and he knows better. He doesn't have a social media. Baby Yoda isn't going to say anything on social media that's going to get him in trouble. Right. And look, it's we live in the times of where if somebody says something that makes the company that employs them dissatisfied with them, it's like, oh my God, it's cancel culture, it's censorship. No, but it's like, she got in trouble like months earlier, and you think that nobody said to her, you should probably just, if you just, why don't you just stay out of it, stay out of politics, and just do whatever. I'm not going to tell you what to do. And she wasn't under contract with them, so it was like, well, we're not going to fire, because they couldn't fire her because she wasn't hired for the next season. So it's like, we're just not going to use her. And I just took it in the way of like, oh, good, the show will be better now. But I hope that there is a very similar character. And I don't know. I mean,
for women, it was great.
I just don't. But
a lot of the same, and it's time we show more inclusivity, right?
Yeah. Right. And Corby, look, a lot of people liked Gina Carano. Maybe not the best thing, but I thought she was good. Yeah, it's a good character. And I think for a lot of the fighting, like, it definitely looked more convincing than the fighting that we're used to seeing. Just women fighting on screen when it's done well. That's why people
She looks like she would be she wasn't a bounty hunter. She was like an Marine, like space Marine
essentially
type of character.
Yeah. And she ends up being like a sheriff, or is the way to look at what she is.
She literally looks like she could have gone through many wars. Like, she looks like a badass, and that's great. So many times we see female superheroes. Like, I love Gal Gadot. She's amazing. She's wonderful. She's a great Wonder Woman. But also at the same time, I kind of wish that she was a little more like a freaking Amazon warrior.
Sure.
You know what I mean? She's beautiful. But I kind of wish she had more muscle tone to her sometimes, just to be like, it's more believable that way. So that's what I appreciated about the casting.
Dominicus Saxon says, always think twice before biting the hand that feeds you. Yeah, look, do you think if Gilbert Gottfried could take back those tweets about just the tweets that got him in trouble, that got him fired from Aflac, do you think that he'd be like, oh yeah, maybe I should have remembered how much money I made to say one word in a commercial, and no joke is necessarily worth that. There's something to be said for that. You mentioned Gal Gadot. I'm wondering, did you see Wonder Woman 1984?
I did. I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
What do you think I thought of that?
I thought that it was terrible.
It was awful. It was bad. Yeah. I was very upset because the first one I thought was awesome.
So good. Yeah.
Minus the villain and the ending with the villain. But everything else about that movie, I was enthralled by. I loved watching the beginning sequence.
You're talking about the first one.
The very first movie. And I actually really enjoyed the first sequence of the second movie. And then it was all downhill from there. And very problematic, too. Like her being with Steve that wasn't actually Steve. So it was another guy that she, what? And then the wishing thing, it was just bad. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like from the screenplay onward, it was not good. And yeah, I mean, it's there. And we talked a lot on this show about problems we had with it and how it worked and how it didn't, and just things were not explained. Nope. Like, well, why does he wake up as this guy? Is this like his great grand nephew or something? It's like, is there some reason that he's this guy? Like, just give me a line, like explain something to me. And what I said about Pedro Pascal in this movie was I like him better with the helmet on, because apparently Patty Jenkins' note after every take was bigger. No, bigger. You're not giving us enough, Pedro. Come on. Yeah. So that was the first of the Warner Brothers movies that they put on HBO Max and out in theaters in places where you could see it in theaters. And before that happened, I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've heard. How are they giving away this movie? And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh, this is why they're giving it away. Because then the second movie they did that with was this movie with Rami Malek, Denzel Washington, and Jared Leto called The Little Things. It's like a serial killer movie. And then I saw that and I'm like, oh, this is why they're giving it away. So I'm about to see Tom and Jerry, which is another one of these HBO Max movies that I can go see in a theater, in a drive-in. So I'm a little nervous about what I'm going to be sitting in the car watching with the kids at this point.
I just don't understand how the script was greenlit. How do you read that and are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
Really? It starts there.
By the way, Corby says, I didn't realize they made a sequel to Wonder Woman. You know what? Just keep it that way. Just remember the first one. Yeah. And if and then if you want to watch Zack Snyder's 4-hour Justice League, then that's on you, Corby. I'm going to watch it because I feel like I need to talk about it and react to it. But I'm going to be very upfront that I'm going into that expecting to hate it. And I'll be very disappointed if I enjoy it, but how could it possibly be the case? All right. So that's something that you've seen, Mandalorian. So we've had a good and a bad. You get out a lot. You're being very creative. So has there been another series that you've watched or anything that you've taken in during quarantine?
The only other thing that's coming up in my brain right now is the cartoon Harley Quinn show.
Oh yeah, that was for initially it was for DC Universe, but now it's on HBO Max. I think. I
love it. I think it's hilarious, and I feel like they're doing Harley right. Not that Margot did her wrong. I think Margot did awesome things with Harley. But
did you see the Birds of Prey movie? That was like a year ago.
I did. I wasn't like gung-ho about it. I thought it was okay. It was good, but it wasn't like the best movie ever. I don't know. The show, however, I think is great. It's definitely not for kids, so
yeah, keep that in mind.
Do not put it on with kids in the room. There's a lot of curse words and it's very violent. But it's really cool. It's like I feel like what DC Universe should be leaning towards. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
stuff like that. And for whatever reason, I think it's Christopher Nolan movies. Everybody thinks that DC movies need to be these like serious epic films, and in reality, I think that there's a lot more humor involved in the DC.
Yeah. Well, I think that as good as those Christopher Nolan Batman movies were, that was the worst thing that could have happened to creating a franchise universe, because then the thinking is like, well, we have to do Superman dark and brooding. And I'm like, well, then you're missing the point about why he works.
Right.
You know, you watch the original Superman from 1978, the Richard Donner one. And my wife and I watched it after we saw Man of Steel. And she's like, oh, this is so much better because it has so much Clark Kent in it. And it's like, you like Clark Kent in that, and he's like barely in those movies. And yeah, it's just, I think that they're doing what they can to kind of have a bit of a course correction. I think that Wonder Woman 1984 is a little bit of a whoopsie, but I liked Shazam, and Aquaman was a little hokey, but at the same time it was entertaining. Have
you seen not another PG movie, but Promising Young Woman? Have you seen that one yet?
I have not seen that. No, I've heard the title, but I don't really remember what that one is.
Well, it's basically about this girl that she lost her like best friend. I think her best friend was raped, and she like wound up killing herself. And so, as I know, it's a very wonderful premise.
So this one is to watch with the kids, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and your wife and big bowl of popcorn.
But I eat popcorn when I watch Faces of Death. So, the popcorn is really not even about what's on the screen. It's just I need something to do with my hands. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, she does this like sort of social experiment, also goes on sort of this like revenge streak where she goes into bars and clubs and pretends that she's like drunk beyond measure, and usually guys try to take her home, and when they try to take advantage of her, she completely sobers up because she's been sober all along, and like scares the living daylights out of them, like, hey, the way you acted is not cool, like stop doing that. And I don't know, it's just one of those female empowerment movies. I liked it. There's a lot of women out there that really loved it, and I think the message was super important, but I definitely liked it more than most of the movies I've seen so far.
In terms of much lighter fare, I was trying to think of what did I think was the best movie that I've seen in this time. Did you see
Carey Mulligan? Do you like Carey Mulligan? Sorry,
I do.
So,
no, I do like her. Yeah,
she's the lead in it. Go ahead.
Did you see Palm Springs with Andy Samberg?
I haven't seen Palm Springs. Is it good?
Yes, it's you will very much like it. It is comedically, it is definitely your sensibility. I think it's on Hulu. I think that's part of the problem. It's like, wait, where is that? Which one did I watch that on? And it's, and I know one of the things that unfortunately fell by the wayside during the pandemic is a show you and I both like very much, which is Barry. And they had got
I'm so upset that
they had gotten like their first script for season 3, and I think they had a table read scheduled, and then it was like, nope, we're gonna. So I don't even know when they're gonna be able to film that, and just the way that the second season ends, it's like, come on, give us more Barry.
I am so jonesing for more Barry. I miss that show so much. It's so good.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, and it's all about, finding the time for things, but it's nice that WandaVision has been this thing that so many people who, aren't even necessarily like comic book people, Marvel people, people kind of have gotten caught up into, talking about it. And I think it's really the product of, and Mandalorian did this too. It's like when you don't give everything all at once, people have to wait. There's a lot of time to talk about it. And I think that that's like more like traditional TV, when it used to be like, oh my God, did you see this last night? And it's like, well, of course you saw it last night, because everybody watches TV when it's on, not 4 months from now because they're 6 seasons behind or whatever,
I'm not really into binging. That's the thing, is like, a lot of people love the binging shows. There's only so much I can watch. I really enjoy watching like an episode or two and then processing it. Like, for instance, Queen's Gambit. I watched all of that because everybody was freaking out over that show. And I was watching it with my roommates, and they were like, okay, let's power through this. And I'm like, can we stop for a while? I just want to take a bathroom break. Like, can we wait till tomorrow? Like, because it's just so heavy. It was such a heavy show.
Yeah.
But really,
but it was great. And I agree with you. My wife and I came to it a little bit later, and we watched it probably quicker than we watch a lot of things, but it was over a few nights, because there's 7 of them. So it was like we'd watch 2 and then we'd probably get a couple more in.
Race to the finish thing. Like, why can't
I did that once because I could. The first season of Jessica Jones on Netflix, I watched 10 episodes the first day.
Nice.
And there was a sense of like, wow, I can't believe I did that. But then it was also like, oh, I can't believe I did that.
Right.
Because it was like I only had a little bit left.
Right.
And it's like just this come down. So I like when shows come out week to week, and I know plenty of people that don't. And I think when you're watching like a documentary series, that can be a little bit more annoying because, there's been a few of those, and it's like, but I have a whole week now to just Google everything. And then do I want to go back to that show? Right. I think that your docs maybe work a little bit better on, some of the streaming services. I want to bring in some of the comments. Sam Whitfield points out that he loves the Bladtcast, been listening for 7 years now, I think. Sam, you must have been in middle school when you started. Young pup, you. And Dominicus Saxon says, I missed like the first year due to lack of time, but went back and listened to them all. This is my favorite part of his comment. Those first ones were rough, but hilarious because of it. It was a little bit more, the world was a little bit more mean-spirited in like 2013. And I'm sorry, Alexa, I spoke over you. What was that?
I can't believe you've been doing this for 7 years. I didn't realize you've been doing it for this long.
Well, it's the only way that you get to 424 episodes, is you just, you got about 50 a year. And I can't believe I've been doing it this long. The guys who I do it with regularly, they can't believe we're still doing it. There are definitely people that but it's fun. And I think that, people are consuming content in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. I was talking about this earlier today. I was interviewing David Alfson. He's the bassist for the band Megadeth. And I was just explaining to him, it's like, you just put things out in multiple ways, because I think a lot of the people who watch the live stream right now are not all of them are people who would listen to just an audio version of this. Some people saw it pop up on Facebook and they're like, oh, I like Christian. Who's he talking to? And they're like, oh my God, Happy Cappy. I love her so much more than Christian. I don't even care what he has to say. Yeah. So, and it's just putting stuff out there in different ways. So like the video version, I think it just adds something. I'm like, I don't know what you have to see. Somebody pointed out that, I think it was Matt pointed out that I need to change some of the artwork because he's seen the hippo before. It's true. I have 2 walls that I use. But I do have this cool map. This is like the original map from when Disneyland opened. So, you can have some interesting things in there, Cool. But anyway, so I definitely want you to check out Palm Springs because I know you're going to like it. All right. I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to be like, I'm so glad he told me to watch this. And if I'm wrong, then I don't know. I guess what are you going to do about it? when are we going to be in the same room again?
When we are, I'll just smack you upside the head.
Well, I mean, I've seen how hard you can punch, so I will definitely, I will see you and definitely run away. And look, I think that I think that this is a fun way to still do stuff, and I think we'd be able to do shows like the movie shows and all that, this way.
Yeah.
So when we have this idea of, things are like back to normal, what is the thing that you're like, is there somewhere that you've been dying to travel to that, but all of a sudden it was like, well, you can't even really travel out of your zip code without, creating problems.
Man, I had just got my passport before the pandemic happened. And I was going to go to Italy.
The old country.
Yes, I am of Italian descent, and I wanted to see my homeland.
Have you ever been there before?
Absolutely not. I haven't been outside of the country, so I was like super stoked to just leave the country for a bit and see life outside of the United States of America.
Yeah.
So, hopefully when things open back up and it's safe,
that's
definitely got to pick that back up.
You'll still have like 8 years left on your passport by the time you can travel somewhere.
I was so excited. I was like, I finally have my passport. World ends. I'm like,
this is like, it's tough because like like leading up to this, but then really over the last year, my son Felix has really taken to maps and geography and, looking at stuff around the world, and he wants to go everywhere. And I'm like, great, we can't go anywhere.
Yep.
It's like, we can't even go to Nevada,
I've been sort of scratching the itch with like national parks. So I went camping.
Did you go to Joshua Tree? Did I see that?
I did go to Joshua Tree. I've also been to Lake Arrowhead. Where else? I think I went to one of Big Bear. So I've been kind of scratching the itch by going to some national parks here and there. And it's definitely on my bucket list. I want to go to all of the national parks at some point, or at least most. And, I'm a city girl, so camping is not really something that I'm accustomed to, but I went with some really cool people. And
one of the reasons my wife and I were able to connect so early on is that we became immediately apparent to both of us that neither one of us was ever going to make the other go camping. So we're like, okay, this is the person to settle down with. Right. And we think that there's a chance that that Felix might want to go camping, and we're like, great, find another family to take you. No, but
instead of camping, just glamp. That's
really what it's going to be. There would be glamping, and it's great because he and his sister watch Peppa Pig, and there's an episode where they go glamping, and I'm like, it's like, because it's like, I love the idea of like the cabin in the woods. I love that, but not the let me put up a tent while it's raining, and
nobody wants to be outside when it's raining in a tent. But I don't know. I haven't had to do that yet. I've just been in like upwards 100 degrees camping.
Yikes. Wow, that's what I was going to go to Joshua Tree. Yeah. Well, we took them to San Diego a couple weekends ago. It was the first time we went anywhere. And we are actually going to get a house in Palm Springs on Felix's spring break. And we are going to take them to Joshua Tree. Because it's like, there's ways in which you can do things, and it's like these, like a rental house, they all brag about like, the deep cleaning protocols that they all have now and stuff like that when you look at it and you get it from a reputable site. And I don't know, we feel like we're able to take those steps, but you can't leave the state, because once you leave the state, then you have to like stay home for 10 days or 14 days. And, our kids are in school. So there's a lot of like checking with people. Like, is it okay if we stay in a hotel? Like, can we rent a house? Right. Because it's like, I don't want the other end of that to be like, and then it's nice that we get to spend some family time together. But what you don't want is to then follow it up with way more family time together while no one goes outside and, that sort of a thing. So getting to travel is, definitely something that I look forward to whenever it might be. You and I were talking beforehand, and it sounds like we had a lot of time because I keep talking about things that came up. We had like 3 minutes to talk before we started. But do you remember the somewhat obnoxious question you asked me before we started?
I feel like all my questions to you are obnoxious. So no, what was
Absolutely. That is 100% true. I forgot I even had the bell here until then. You asked if I had gotten the vaccine yet, because obviously I'm so old.
Yeah.
And the answer is no, I have not. But we did start talking about you're a Florida gal, and what?
Don't remind me.
Well,
I like to forget that aspect.
I know. It's like I forget you're from Florida because you're so normal. And I say that because
no disrespect to anybody that lives in Florida. I grew up in Florida and also in New York. But Florida, man, sometimes I'm like, what are you doing?
My mom lives in Florida now, so she checks us out sometimes. But
good place to retire and relax.
Right, exactly. But
I get it.
We were talking about sort of this clamoring for vaccines because people want to do normal things. And you mentioned this story of these girls. I think they were like in their 20s.
Yeah.
Right.
They're very creative.
Very creative. I think that they should have gotten vaccines just for the attempt. Like, just thinking outside the box, and they pretended to be old ladies. It's like, you know what, if that could get you into a life raft off the Titanic, you know what, maybe it can get you a needle in your arm at a parking lot, at like, I don't know, a Publix parking lot somewhere in South Florida. I mean, it's it's funny because I'm wondering, like, are we going to hear a lot of that? Are you going to hear about, I think people generally are going to know, like, don't you think they're going to see you and go like, wait a minute, this driver's license doesn't say you're 85. You're 25.
I'm trying to figure out how they thought they were going to be able to get away with that, because I mean, unless their like makeup and prosthetics were just amazingly out of this world, you can kind of tell like the hairlines, you can tell that things are drawn on.
Yeah.
And then also, yeah, if they're going to check your driver's license, what are you going to get, like a random 80-year-old lady's driver's license that's been expired? Like, what? I just don't get how maybe they did it as a joke, but you didn't even finish the story. The story was two girls that were like in their 20s or 30s dressed up like old women and tried to get the vaccine.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted in the middle
of Florida.
By the way, Corby says, I love Florida.
Oh, Florida.
Those are great. And my mom knows the story. The two young women who dressed up as old were there for the second shot. They got away with it for the first shot. I did not know that.
Oh my
I think at that point they need to get the second shot, because it's like you've already wasted two of them. Like, I didn't realize that. I'd heard most of that story, but I didn't realize that part. Anyway, so we're like eagerly anticipating things being normal. What do you, I don't know. I mean, at what point do you think, like, just say, we're going to just pick a date, just magically, all right, movie theaters, bars, restaurants, everything's reopened. Let's say May 1st. I'm just picking a date. Doesn't mean that's actually going to happen. Do you feel like, all right, maybe I'll do one or more of those things? Or are you a little bit more like, well, let's wait and see how everybody else does with, these things being open?
I don't know. I'm not really jumping at the bit to get into situations where I might catch it. Like, I've been very, very fortunate, lucky. I've been able to not catch anything this whole time, and I'm not about to try to do that. But I am kind of eager to get back to work. So I think the only things that I would be more amenable to jumping in a little head first would be work situations. I would risk a little bit more for that than going to a bar, because although I miss bars, I miss my favorite bar, I miss going to karaoke, I miss seeing people. I can hang on for a little while longer and stuff. So
right. Well,
movies, I really miss movies too, but also at the same time, I have this service that lets me see them from my living room. So it's
right.
fun.
And I've reminded you about the drive-ins. There's one in Van Nuys. It's not even that far, so that's where we're going to take the kids to see Tom and Jerry. So, when the movies start coming out, but as much to the chagrin of people in the chat that night, I pointed out that you're not really one for the Marvel movies. You just like some.
Okay. Whoa. I got a lot of hate, and that was unappreciated, because that's not true. I'm not a fan of the Marvel movies. They just lost me after a while. Like, they petered out, and it. Everybody knows it. They just don't want to admit it. They petered out for a while, and then
But then it definitely goes back up, because like the last one was like the best one. But I see what you're saying.
They sort of like just were churning them out, and they weren't spending as much time on story and character development. Like, for instance, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was not a good movie, and there's a few reasons why it wasn't a good movie. We don't have to get into them all right now, but like, objectively, it just wasn't that great of a film, and like, it didn't need to be not bad. It didn't need to be bad. I felt like they were just not spending enough time with these characters, and that's why I'm excited for what they're doing with this multiverse thing, with WandaVision and all the other new stuff that they're doing, these limited series and stuff. Like, a limited series gives them time to flesh out these characters more.
Yeah. And I think
really cool. I'm glad that they're doing this.
Yeah, I think you have like a 9-part show like WandaVision that I think we've been told it's going to be it's like 6 hours of story. And I'm like, great, spend your time with it. And look, I like these characters. I think Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany are good. They were never going to get a movie. You were never getting the Vision and Scarlet Witch movie. I think that they're able to, do some more things there like that. By the way, UV the Scrimshaw has something funny to say about the story that we were saying before. Meddling kids and their dog really dropped the ball with those two. Yeah, that's why they thought that, too much Scooby-Doo made them think like, oh, well, I just have to put on a mask. I have to put on a disguise. And that's everything they'll put. And my mom points out Tuesday, they're going to get their second shots, but they're actually old. Yeah, my mom doesn't need to put on the prosthetics or anything like that. Anyway. So I understand what you're saying, and you're talking about work. There was just a situation came up over the fall where I had to actually go into work after doing it, well, basically on the same laptop I'm looking into right now for months. And at first it was like oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to be in a building with like other people that aren't in my house. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, but it's like people who also are, being careful. And, the interesting thing is that you go places, it's like, there's like hand sanitizer, like dispensers everywhere now. And you start to think like, yeah, but why didn't we just have this before? Like long before there was a pandemic, just right. Like, malls are dirty, concerts are dirty, like why isn't it just easier to keep us cleaner? Maybe if there's any takeaway from that. And by the way, I feel like, I don't know a point. I can't imagine like not leaving the house without hand sanitizer for like years to come now, because just I get that feeling of like, so I don't know. Hopefully things change for the better, and hopefully it's sooner than later. And one of the last things I want to ask you about is how's your dog handling it?
She's great. I love Emmy. She's the joy of my life. How's she handling pandemic? She's great.
She's just like, hey, you're
aware. Can you see? You probably can't. Yeah.
You just bring it closer. We should be able to see it. Like,
right.
There she is. I love it.
She is just like stoked that she gets to be around people like basically all the time. She's got a lot of attention. Her mom's home more. She's like, this is great. More walks. So she's handling.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you're home more often. I think that a lot of pets are probably more appreciative. They're just like, hey, more people time. This is great.
Just like kids. I think kids, I know parents are a little like, oh, but yeah. I mean, think about it this way. You get these invaluable years you get to spend together.
Yeah. No, and I think that
get to know your kids.
Yeah, but yeah. I think that my kids are little enough where, it's not, I hope it's something where, in like 3 years, they're looking at pictures and they're like, oh yeah, well, why did we have to wear masks all the time? Like they don't really remember that it was different, it's just sort of like just something that you kind of get past, especially like if you're like kindergarten age or whatever. Wow. Cappy's dog looks like Precious from Silence of the Lambs.
Or Snowball from Rick and Morty.
Oh, see, there you go.
Where are my testicles?
And Corby points out that I phoned it in for years. Let's be honest. Yeah, I didn't. I could just phone in all my content. I didn't need a pandemic to just take a lackadaisical approach to it. Well, Cappy, as always, talking to you just makes me happy.
Aww,
that's why I miss you too. So we should pick a movie that we haven't seen. And not right now, because every time we did that, we'd have to send a list back and forth. And be like,
we could just do an episode where you have obviously seen Goodfellas, but I haven't. So you just like you're ragging on me the whole time that I haven't seen.
I would actually like to do that. Yeah, mostly because it'll get you to watch Goodfellas.
Exactly. So it gives me an excuse.
All right. Well, so yeah, let's just do that. Like, and anybody out there who's thinking about, maybe watching The Irishman, just watch Goodfellas, and then you can join us, and then we'll do that at some point. All right, so I'm going to hold you to that. We're going to find a time to do it. And by the way, once WandaVision ends, I think I do want to have you on the Marvel show. So that'll only be in a couple weeks because I want you to talk a little bit about all that. You've got secrets in your head, don't you? You know stuff right now.
I do, but I can't. I'm not going to spoil it.
No. I don't want you to spoil it now. But then I want to be able to talk to you after it's over and like, oh, this crazy thing, you knew about that. And you're like, yep. Mm-hmm. You're like, it's here right now. Well, I look forward. See, this is good because it had been a very long time since we'd done a show together, almost a year. And now I'm going to start harassing you, every couple weeks, not every week, but it'll be like, yeah, let's watch a movie. Let's do something fun. And I definitely want to hear from you when you see Palm Springs. There was a lot of feedback in the chat. People want to also give it the recommendation.
Great.
So
yeah, I'll watch it.
If people want to keep in touch with you, we talked about how it is at Alexa Cappy.
Alexa Cappy, Cappy.
AAPY.
On Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram. That's it. No TikTok, right?
No, I'm too old for TikTok. I don't.
I mean,
dance.
If you're too old for TikTok, just imagine how I feel about it.
I don't understand that app. I can't even try. But yeah, Instagram, and I still use Facebook. That shows my age, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I still use Facebook too. So, but I'm old, so it makes sense. So, but you know, with Facebook, it's tough. I think Instagram is easy because it's a lot of like, hey, look at this picture of this thing I did. And then Facebook, it leads to more of a conversation with people. And then it's like, there's like things that I'm like, I don't want to tell people where I went and what I did because I don't need somebody judging me. Like, what do you mean you left the house? You know? And I'm like, you know, I mean, look, this is streaming on Facebook right now, so somebody might figure it out. But it's like, my kids have been back in preschool since the middle of August. I don't write about it on Facebook. You know, it's you know, I'm just like, I don't need that conversation. Like, I don't need anybody telling me what I should be doing. You know, I mean, that's not what I mean. You know, if the government tells you things that they think you should do, that's a different conversation. What I don't need are, I'm using air quotes, friends on Facebook saying like, this is how you need to live your life. I'm like, okay, great. Can we just go back to like never talking to each other? And for some reason we're Facebook friends. But anyway,
I feel the same way.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, always appreciated you taking some time, and it's fun, and we'll focus on some movies. And if people want to look for our old shows, we had, the first one we did was really, I thought was a lot of fun. We actually used it as an episode of the Bladtcast. We talked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was a lot of fun. And some of the other movies that we talked about, you can find, it's all on YouTube, just like this. So people will find us, and they'll be like,
retro anatomy of a movie.
Exactly.
We talk about films that are great films that we just have never seen for whatever reason, and we go back and we watch them because we should see them. So it gives us a reason. Or
the way that you look at, we talk about great films and White Christmas. All right. Well, thank you, Happy Cappy. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And I have to specifically say thanks to my mom for being in the chat, because if I don't single her out, then, that's, but then this just counts. Like, so this is like another few weeks where I won't have to call my mom now. So she just checks in on the Bladtcast. She knows that it's like, all right, he's doing all right. Everything's okay.
You can always call your mom.
Oh, she's going to love you. All right. Thank you to Alexa. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We will see you next time on the Bladtcast.
See you later.